Unbelievable.
TJ Reeves.
This is what you get.
Your weekends are on fire.
Because that's how exotic it is.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
All right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Thursday morning. A week ago, Saturday, Robin, your brother had an invitation that went out to your family, and you included me and our friend Doug, and we went up there and we fished. And not only was I fishing there, but I was looking and very impressed with what your brother had done. And he kind of let me in on this. And what he had done was he had taken these 10 acres of land that he bought with his wife that was all wooded. And with one little old tractor, he, what's the word?
It's from the 1950s.
Took down the old tractor, yeah, from the 50s. But he methodically, that's a good word, took down these trees. And long story short, what's standing there now is a beautiful house. He's got a pond in his yard. He's got a barn in his yard. He's got a workshop because he's a woodworking guy. He's got a farm in the back where he grows his own vegetables. He's not a farmer commercially, but it's just for his family.
Right.
He raises chickens, and he did this all himself. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
He didn't do it all in one day, a little bit at a time. Whenever we speak to anybody who writes books prolifically, like every time you turn around, there's another book. Dean Koontz is one, right?
Yes.
It's like, wow, when do you find the time to do this? And then you look at your own life and you say, well, maybe if I wasn't watching 3 hours of TV every night, maybe I could do some of these things too. Yeah. I'll tell you, I have really cut back on a lot on. I don't really watch TV at all anymore, but I do kind of waste time on the internet. So I guess TV was replaced by the internet. Anyway, we have a guest, and she is going to tell us how to be as productive as you want to be. Kory Kogon has written this very, very refreshing book. I'm trying to think of a good adjective for the book. It's encouraging. It's inspiring. The book is called The 5 Choices. Do I have that right?
Yes.
The 5 Choices, The Path to Extraordinary Productivity. Kory is the global practice leader for productivity at Franklin Covey, and she's been honored by the Utah Business Magazine as one of the business women to watch in Utah. Let's see if I have a picture. I don't have a picture. How am I going to watch her? She's on the phone right now, though. Good morning, Kory. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Thank you for being on the air. Are you in Utah right now?
No, I actually live in Tucson, Arizona, and I am in a hotel in very cold Atlanta at the moment.
Oh, you're sort of kind of close to us then. Well, thank you for being on the air with us. When we look at people who have accomplished amazing things, and you realize that they did them in piecework. I mean, most people do things a little bit at a time. All these great things, so they have to find the time somewhere, right?
Yes.
So, is that part of what is the secret to success? Is being able to manage your time?
Well, I think it's foundational to our success. It was interesting listening to you comment about your 3 hours of television. I think it's fun. I think it's refreshing. And when you say, well, maybe I shouldn't watch 3 hours of television, my advice to you would be to say, maybe it's the right thing to do, but is there something more important you should be doing? So should you be spending more time with your family? Should you be working on something else or not? Maybe that 3 hours of television is a good use of renewal time. Only you can make that decision, and the framework of the 5 choices will help you come to terms and master the skills of decision management, attention management, and energy management to make those kinds of decisions.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Foundational.
Yeah. Well, and I understand what you're saying. I mean, sometimes our recreational time, if you want to call it that, where we're just kind of chilling out, is a necessary part of the day.
Not only is it a necessary part of the day, but the research shows that by pausing, taking breaks, sleeping well, those kinds of things, really increases your productivity, some cases by 35-40%. So I am tempering this by saying, yes, you do need to pause, and you should happily pause, but At the same time, that has to be offset by doing the work, particularly around choice to go for extraordinary, don't settle for ordinary, really coming to terms with creating this framework of what is important in the few roles, the few most important roles in your life right now. So you have this barometer to make high-value decisions about what you should be acting on and not acting on.
In what we do here, in what I do specifically, I made a decision like 12 years ago when I first started doing this that I was going to get the bulk of the writing part of what we do here done first thing in the morning. So I get up at 3 a.m. and it's the best time for me because there's no phone interrupting me. There's no anything distracting me. Usually, I mean, once in a while, the dog needs to go out or whatever. but for the most part, that was my decision. So, among the 5 choices, and we'll get specific with what the 5 choices are in just a second. But is that part of one of them? Is finding a time of day that works best for whatever the task at hand is?
Yes, you get to make those decisions, and we speak a lot. The 5 choices is really a combination of some timeless principles from Franklin Covey blended with some of the science and research of the 21st century. And one of the key things we know is that the brain is the #1 time management tool. And essentially what you're saying is that you are finding time to get into what we call the thinking brain, the front of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, where you can go deep, where you can do your best work, where you're very intentional about what's going on, and you're out of your reactive brain, where you're just trying to handle everything, that's coming in. So that is absolutely right. You need to find the time that is uninterrupted where you can get your best work done. And the research also on interruptions, when you are interrupted, when you go look at your email in the midst of trying to do good writing, every single time you do that, you are degrading the amount of good energy that you can put into the work, to get back into what you were working on, get back into the zone.
And you have to make sure that you're not deterred, because all of this energy that you're putting into your life, your career, your family, whatever it is you choose to do, there is always a fear of burnout.
There is always a fear of burnout, and, there's 2 badges of honor that are really bad news in today's world. One is busy means productive, and the second is burnout means productive. Oh my gosh, I need a week to recover after that project. Yeah. And choice 5, fuel your fire, don't burn out, really is a remedy to say, you know what, you could be highly productive, and knowing, man, we're going to have to handle the crises and the demands our bosses throw on us, but we can be productive with sustainable energy through the day and night to be able to really master work-life balance. So burnout is not a badge of honor. It can be handled, and you'll be extraordinarily productive if you can just change your paradigm around burnout.
Oh, really? Let's see. So Robin and I do the radio show every day, and we also are a musical act, and that requires rehearsing. Finding the time to rehearse after we've done a radio show all day long is not always easy. But we've come to learn that it's just do it. Just take the time and do it. I don't know. It's kind of hard to figure out where to squeeze things sometimes. And part of it is like, well, you got to eat sometime.
Yeah.
So the eating part is often an issue too.
I'm the first one, my reputation is I'm a realist. So, I'm never going to say, oh, you read the 5 choices, life will be great. You really have to act on, it's hard. We're always going to be interrupted. You have to really be intentional about implementing some of these behaviors to get the desired results. What you are talking about now in your role as musicians, you need to follow the 30-10 promise. Before the week starts, take 30 minutes to really think about what are the few most important things you need to do next week, and rehearsal is one of them. Use a calendar. The fact that you get things on the calendar into time slots will increase your probability of getting those things
that's
done
a good idea.
300%.
So schedule yourself.
Yeah, and if you at the beginning of the week, just force it in. Force what we call the big rocks. Schedule the big rocks. Don't sort gravel. forced in the big rocks into your calendar. 4 o'clock on Tuesday, we're rehearsing, and even lunch. You know, I'm a small person. I ended up in the hospital twice a number of years ago because I was one of those people, I don't do lunch because it breaks my flow. Well, I'm 120 pounds, and I ended up with, you know, nothing, and I passed out. So lunch is a big rock for me. It's in my calendar. No matter what happens, 12:30, I stop and grab a bite to eat. That's the solution.
Wow.
And that's probably the healthiest thing to do, too. Yeah, and, you know, there's something psychological about knowing there's an oasis in the desert, and that oasis can be called a bowl of chicken soup or something like that.
Yeah.
This is very fascinating, Kory, and I love this. This is pumping me up a little bit. So let's take a little break, and we'll be right back because that was scheduled into the day. It's the commercial break we have to take. So we'll be right back with Kory Kogon.
The LPGA Tour will kick off the 2015 season right here in Central Florida at the inaugural Coates Golf Championship presented by R&L Carriers, January 26th to the 31st at Golden Ocala Golf and Equestrian Club. Kids 12 and under get in free with a ticketed adult, so bring the entire family to see 120 of the world's best female golfers compete on a nationally televised stage. For information and tickets, visit CoachGolfChampionship.com.
Hi, Danny Werfel here. Get moving with Florida Credit Union's fast and easy loan approval process.
Let Florida Credit Union start up a new car loan for you today. No more waiting, hassles, or stop signs. You can even apply online. With a strong financial team behind you, you can enjoy great rates and fast approvals.
It's all about personalized service and a streamlined process.
Florida Credit Union, connecting your money to your life.
Get it for less at the DIY Home Center outlet. Get top quality real wood cabinets the same or less than the big box stores are selling the cheap stuff. And that's not all. Drywall screws big box stores are $6.47 a pound. At DIY, only $4.99. Plus, DIY has the largest selection of mobile home parts and accessories anywhere. From carpet to doors, get the DIY supplies you need for less. The DIY Home Center outlet. We are your building material closeout store. 2191 Northwest 10th Street, just 2 miles east of I-75.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. For today, times of clouds and sun, breezy and quite cool. A brief shower or two in parts of the area. Highs ranging from 51 in the northernmost part of the zone to 63 in the southernmost part. Partly cloudy and quite chilly tonight. Lows ranging from 38 across the interior to 54 on the coast. For tomorrow, times of clouds and sun. There may be a shower in spots near the coast. Highs ranging from 59 up north to 72 in the south. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Joe Lundberg.
Thank you, Joe. 12 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Nice looking day. A little bit chilly today here. Kory Kogon is on the phone. She is actually one of 3 authors of the book we've been talking about. The book is called The 5 Choices, The Path to Extraordinary Productivity. And Kory Kogon, as well as Adam Merrill and Lena Rinn, are all 3 credited with writing this book. And it is a wonderful way to kind of stimulate yourself and get things done. Kory, I was thinking about something during the break, and I wanted to share it with you, because in the book you talk about the urgent thing, when things are urgent, and how we get things done when they're urgent, right?
Well, we get some things done when they're urgent, but people seem to be addicted to urgency, and it's not when we do our best work.
Ah, okay. Well, so let me tell you my little 2 cents, and then and guess what? My 2 cents will actually illustrate what you just said. I told you I get up at 3 o'clock. Well, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I miss it, or I stayed up too late the night before, and now it's 4 o'clock. Well, that's a big difference, 4 and 3 for me in getting my work done, because we're on the air at 7. Okay, so all of a sudden I have this urgency, like, holy cow, I got to get all this stuff done, and I don't have as much time as I normally have. And you're exactly right. Sometimes I have to have sacrifices. I have to have one segment that maybe is a repeated segment or something like that. I'm just trying to tell you what we do here specifically. But you're right, exactly. When it's urgent, it often takes a hit a little bit.
Well, it does, and I bet you can relate to this really well, because here's some myths. The main myth is that people will say, "Oh, I do my best work under pressure." So they're really saying, "I do my best work under urgency," or I'm going to procrastinate,
right.
And so I'll get it done later. When you're writing, in particular, that's a project for you. I bet you when you have less time to write, if you wait till the last minute, I bet you, whether it's unconscious or consciously, you know it's not your best work. I have terrified myself into never procrastinating, or as I used to do years ago, thinking I do my best work under pressure, because if I have some space where I am writing like you, or creating a curriculum or whatever it might be, or getting ready to work with a client, in Dubai somewhere, if I give it some time, I can do it, look at it, close it, open it up again, fix it, and, be really well prepared and do high quality work. So this, and sometimes, listen, Larry, if sleep is the choice that needs to be made for a good reason, you do that. You don't beat yourself up for urgency. You just try to manage it and only do urgency on an as-needed basis.
How do you... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to agree. I think that's exactly what we've discovered and what I've learned personally, yeah.
Well, when a person is an individual and we follow your principles in your book and try to make our life better in whatever career choice we have, how do we keep that separate from the family life? Because sometimes the spouse, or the children might not see a need for what the individual sees as to being accomplished, and you have to divide your time.
Yeah, work-life balance is something that I hear about, observe, and I could be in Uganda, I can be in the United States, I can be in China. It's the same question that comes up everywhere. Really important. Choice 2, go for extraordinary, don't settle for ordinary.
It's my favorite choice, by the way.
You think about the few most important roles in your life today, and it's going to include personal and professional. And you create what we call quadrant 2 role statements. What is the target? What is what I'm passionate about in my role as a daughter, as a parent, as a global practice leader? And write those statements down. And that becomes your target for extraordinary, meaning I'm making a high-value contribution in that role. What happens when you write that role statement and you are looking at what it takes, it gives you a talking point, even with your family. It gives you the opportunity to look at your roles and say, what would the few things be so that as a spouse or a parent, if I just do these few things, I will be making the right contribution in that role and making a good, high-value contribution in the work role. Sometimes we need to negotiate that. I have a client who went back to school for 2 years and said, I can't give my wife the attention I need. But because he had his role statements, he was able to have that conversation with her and be able to say, this is who I want to be as a husband to you. I am in school. X amount of energy needs to go there. Know that I'm doing, this is how we can work it out. And I'll be back to, exactly who I should be as I move through school. And that relieves some of the pressure and keeps some harmonious work-life balance going.
Just make sure your wife reads the book.
Yeah.
I mentioned I interrupted you when I did that, and I apologize for that. But I love choice number 2. Go for the extraordinary. Don't settle for the ordinary. It is probably my favorite one in the whole book because it surfaces in so many ways in productivity, but can I share with you one that came to mind when I first read that was more about a vacation than about actual work? When my son was little, he had done a project about Fort Ticonderoga, upstate New York. So I said to him, you know what we should do? We should take a trip to see Fort Ticonderoga. Okay. So we had this idea to take a trip up there. And I looked at Fort Ticonderoga online, and I said, well, that's kind of boring, actually. And then I saw that Quebec, Canada, was real close to that. And Quebec looked so much more interesting. It was another country. They spoke another language. They had different foods, and they had some kind of a thing going on at that time, some kind of a festival. I don't remember what it was. So it was a lot of extra little extra driving, I guess, relatively compared to going from here. But the point is, we had to go farther. We went for the extraordinary and not the ordinary, because we can go to a fort in Florida.
Yeah.
But we can't go to a foreign-speaking country in Florida, unless you go to Miami. Yeah. But anyway, I just see how that relates not only in the workplace, but also in your playtime.
Yeah, and people sometimes said, oh, extraordinary. And we don't mean you have to solve world peace. What we mean is just get out of the mindlessness of everything that's coming at you and pause, clarify, and decide. That's in choice one. Pause, PCD, pause, decide, be intentional to get the best return on the moment. So you really thought about that, and it was like, yeah, we got to go to Fort Ticonderoga and then we'll go back. So it wasn't a bad thing. It was exactly what your son sort of needed you to do, but you went a little bit beyond that and said, wait, let me think about this, and how do we make that even better? How do we make it an even better contribution, a better experience for us as a father and a son? And that's what you did, and that's sort of the magic of choice two, is just really giving you those targets combined with choice one. Pause, clarify, and decide. Be really intentional and make the most of the moments when you can.
Now, when you're in sales and the product you're selling may be tangible, but your work isn't, because your work is about persuading people to see the benefit of whatever it is you're selling. How do you measure that? How do you measure productivity in that line of work?
Well, in sales, the easiest measure is revenue, right? I mean, so
that's true.
That's how salespeople get judged. What happens in this day and age, I think in particular, salespeople will not achieve that measure if they are not selling to the customer's needs and benefits. So and really identifying what are the one or two best practices that I should be doing to get to the revenue. And so again, this is this is a role. As a salesperson, who am I? Am I a customer service provider? Who am I that really, makes me feel passionate about my role? And how am I going to get there? By being, this is choice two, by being a consultative, benefits-driven, salesperson. That's my role. So how am I going to spend my time? Well, if it means that, if I understand that demonstration, identification of benefits and what the customer really needs, if those are the key number one and two behaviors that I should be doing to get to revenue, then that has to become part of my choice three planning every week, that I make time to do the research, to really prepare well before the week starts. I get that all in my calendar because, salespeople's lives are really busy. So before you know it, they're in front of the customer and may not be as well prepared. So really identifying those behaviors, getting them in your calendar, and making sure you have time to do it is the way to go.
Kory Kogon is our guest, and she, along with Adam Merrill and Lena Rinn, wrote the book we're talking about. It's called The 5 Choices, The Path to Extraordinary Productivity. And you are, Kory, a dynamic speaker. I'm sure you knew this already. Do you sometimes, what do you want to say? Do you do presentations? Do you travel? Is that what you're doing in Atlanta? Do you show up at corporations or department meetings and things like that?
Yes, so I oversee the productivity channel for Franklin Covey, and I spend my time researching and developing the content that helps people feel accomplished at the end of every day. So that's around time management, project management, and getting your point across, because communication is so key. And I travel worldwide and will work with our own offices. Franklin Covey's in 150 countries, and I also am in front of clients. So yes, yesterday I was keynoting for a very large global company that we would all know and love. So, and I love to do it. I love to help people change their behavior to feel accomplished at the end of every day.
Each of the three authors of the book have their own individual personalities, but you're all strong. How did you manage to agree on everything that went in the book?
Great question. This was a labor of love. Adam Merrill is the Vice President of Innovations for Franklin Covey, and Lena Renee is just a great friend and colleague out in the field. And it was very, this is a Franklin Covey word, synergistic. Adam and I and Lena, we just, Lena and I are out in the field, with clients on the front lines. Adam brings a lot of the history of Franklin Covey and his great knowledge of productivity to the table, and it really was a model of just just laying everything out there. You know, sometimes just doing the dance and getting into some great debates about stuff. And as Dr. Stephen Covey had said, very synergistically, what came out is this great third alternative that was the meeting of the mind.
All right, Kory, we're out of time. The book is available where? On Amazon, etc.?
The book is available at your favorite retailers, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local bookstore, and you can go to www.franklincovey.com/books/the 5 choices for more information.
Okay, and for the listeners, I do have one copy. If you call me, you can have the copy that was sent to us. Thank you so much, Kory. That was great. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. All right, we will take a little break. If you want the book, call me right now, 622-962 to the 5 choices. We'll be right back. This is WOCA Ocala.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. In Paris, mourning for those gunned down in the offices of a satirical newspaper which poked fun at the Prophet Muhammad.
I am sad and angry also.
She was in a crowd outside Notre Dame Cathedral for a minute's silence at 12 noon.
Et nous voulons dire aux Français.
The French Prime Minister Manuel Valls praising the public for a peaceful response to what is a suspected Islamist attack.
Fox Radio.